Hello everyone, we hope you're doing beautifully well. Today's valued viewer request is thus: 2 new from Jim. Given that some aircraft have rear horizontal stabilizers and front canards, is it possible, brackets, if you start with enough altitude to regain control, to have sufficient lift and control if you remove the main wings of any DCS aircraft and still land safely, even if unpowered, perhaps the Sukhoi? Interesting question. Here is what we call a very accurate drawing of an Su-33. Here we have rear. These guys are called stabilators, spelled probably wrong, and I didn't type the right word. Bilators. You know what we should call this? Learning with Cap and RC. These are wings. Oh, I'm going to get these wrong. So these foreplanes or canards. I'm going to call them front things, because I don't want to get in trouble with the valued viewers. Okay, so we've got the stabilizers at the back, we've got the main wing there, we've got the front things there, which are either foreplanes or canards, I can never remember. And we've actually got a fourth way of making lift, which is actually body. The blended design of something like a flanker that we'll use today will actually generate a lot of lift in the body. How that happens, I've never really actually looked into. It must be some effect in that it must act like a wing at some angles of attack and some speed. And our gentleman Jim, and let's face it, everyone needs a gentleman friend, says if we remove their Marcy, if you're watching, and it's still flying. And that's interesting.
Why do you put something?
Huh? Because I don't know if they're I don't know if they're foreplanes or canards. There's a difference. One of them can move independently and do things, and one of them can't. I can't remember.
Those can move into. Let's see.
I don't think they can, because I've got a book on the Su-33 and I've read it a few years ago, and it said that these here are specifically not for manoeuvring. They're at the front things, like a lot of people think.
Canards.
They're canards, right?
Yes.
Well, let's put canards there. They're there to add. They're a cheap way of adding a bit of extra lift at the front because of the 2 tons extra of the front landing gear. Or it was a lot of weight they've added on the front landing gear. It's upset where the balance of lift is and stuff like that. So they would have to redesign the whole plane to get the. You know, I don't really fully understand it. You can probably hear it. But, you know, to get it to fly properly, they needed to redesign the wings, which is massively expensive. So what's the easiest way? Add some things at the front. Add your canards, you right? So, will that fly? That's an interesting question. And we actually come into something that I want to get a little further into. And we're not going to get into it properly today because it's going to be a long thing. But a lot of you guys say, oh, DCS is a terrible flight sim. It's not a proper flight sim. X-Plane is a proper flight sim. If you're going to make a flight sim, which I've tried, it's real friggin' hard, by the way. You have to take a plane, a virtual plane, and make it move like a real plane. How do you do that? That's your problem. To solve your problem, you've got 2 ways you can do it. One, make an aerodynamic simulation model. That's what X-Plane does. An aerodynamic, real-time flight model. Okay, sounds great. Sounds great. Or you could do a data-tuned, data-led simulator, pre-tuned data-led simulator like DCS. That's what DCS's solution is. And people say because it's not a real-time aerodynamic flight engine, oh, it's not as good, it's not as good. That's not the truth. That's lazy. A real-time flight model has its advantages and disadvantages. One of the advantages of the real-time aerodynamic model of X-Plane is that we could remove the wings and it would then go and literally calculate the new model as it is in real time. You would get a roughly realistic sense of this. DCS doesn't work like that. DCS has done the other model. And I should say at this time, one is not better than the other. In some ways, the DCS model is actually more accurate. The pre-tuned model is actually more accurate than the aerodynamic model. And if you like, I can do a video about that to explain my understandings of that. But don't just say one's better than the other. It's just simply not the case. But we do run into one of the problems with a pre-calculated data model. So DCS is not going to model this. What it's going to say in DCS is that, oh, the damage model says, I've lost my wings. We're going to find a way of shooting the wings off. And it's going to have to switch to another DLL. It's going to have to switch to another pre-calculated, pre-tuned data model, which they probably just wouldn't have bothered even modeling. Or if they did, it'll be very, you know, it's like the Su-27 flanker. You can press the S key. Is it the S key? And it turns the fly-by-wire off. That doesn't actually go and fly. It doesn't actually turn the fly-by-wire off like it would in the X-Plane model, which is aerodynamically modeled in real time. It just switches to another DLL that sort of is tuned so it feels like it sort of, you know, looks like it when it goes to an air show. It's not done properly per se. That's not to say it's bad. It's not. It's actually a really good way of doing it. If I was going to make a flight sim, if someone paid me £10 million now to go and say, hey Cap, go make a flight sim, I would go for the DCS model. I think it has more advantages than the X-Plane model for a game, a sim, whatever you want to call it. So What we're going to probably find is that DCS, which is what we do, just doesn't model this. We'll probably knock the wings off, and it probably won't just fall out of the sky. Could it do it in real life, in, you know, sort of fantasy land? If you could remove the wings without upsetting any hydraulic systems and electrical systems, could it work? In Fantasyland, I reckon it probably could. If you go fast enough, we've already seen in real life an F-15 can land without one wing, and that's a pretty crap body lifter. So with a good body lifter, like an Su-33 in Fantasyland, where, you know, things are just done roughly, I reckon you could get enough body lift from the Lurxes and from the Canards and from the Stapelators to land like really fast, like at 300 knots. Again, Fantasyland. You get bucket loads of control from these Stapelators. Pitch, roll, more than you could ever want. You don't need the ailerons. You don't even need the ailerons on these planes, really, on the wings to control your roll. And your yaw's fine because you've still got your tail fins. So I bet in real life, again in Fantasyland, in real life obviously you couldn't test this, but Fantasyland, I reckon you could do it. What are your thoughts about Fantasyland real life, RC?
I think the same as you. I think that it's not going to be modeled correctly in DCS, but I think in real life, anything goes. You never know.
Anyway, I'm just going to go prove my concept now. I'm going to go and jump into DCS. We've flown it so many times. We know what the flight model is good at and what it's bad at, and we'll show you it switching to the new model, and we'll show you it's just not really going to work. Okay, valid viewers, we're in an Su-33 now. I'm going to snap my main big wing, daddy wings off on purpose. I'm going to show you the flight model switching to another sub-flight model. How it does that? Does it load up another DLL? Does it open up a bunch of new data matrices? I don't know, or really care. But it's not gonna really attempt to model it very well with the wings off, is what I'm going to show you in this sim. Off we go. Whee, super cap. Down we go. Oh, my wings! My wings, RC.
Save it.
And it's gonna. Oh my goodness gracious me.
Save it.
It's going to put me into this kind of fake tumble. This isn't a real aerodynamic tumble. I mean, it's so hard to get in trouble because there are so many points where the lines blur that whatever I say will technically be wrong, but it's not calculating this like a real aerodynamic tumble. It's another model. It's another flight model that is switched into to say, I got no wings, make me spin around and kind of, you know, roughly fool people to make it. And it's good enough. It's perfectly fine. But there's nothing I can do, look. Whatever I do, it's simply not programmed to allow me to take control of this in any way. Interesting. Let's just have a quick test. If I am currently rotating left, if I remove my left engine, let's just see if I get any yaw change. I doubt I will, but sweet, I cut the wrong engine anyway, so it doesn't matter. Boom, there we go.
Good job.
Thank you very much. So, answer, in real life, no. In real life, Fantasyland, maybe. In DCS, no. For the reasons we've explained, lots of people will come back to us, but that's the gist of how this works. Anything you want to add to that, Super RC? I've enjoyed that. See you later.